So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the BI breakdown. And I have Chris Kirkpatrick here today. And of course, I like to let my guests introduce themselves, but Chris has some very, very, very
Right.
powerful information. And I really love following his content. We were just talking right before we came on. And Chris takes very complex things and he's able to break it down in a way that the everyday person can understand it. And you can digest exactly what economics is, bringing it all together, the science behind how the world works. And so, without further ado, Chris Kirkpatrick, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey,
What's
what's
up,
going
man?
on,
What's
man?
up, man?
Thanks for having me.
Of course, I want you to introduce yourself a little bit, Chris. Let the people know
Sure.
kind of who you are. What are you into? I know one thing that's fascinating about you. For me, I'll save it to later on in the podcast. But when I found out your kind of like your story of how you started inside of the industry that we're in and where you're at now, that was
Yeah.
interesting to me. So we have a lot to kind of unpack. But yeah, man, give us a little bit
Yeah,
about
totally.
who is Chris Kirkpatrick.
Oh man. Well, so I guess the quick and dirty of it is, I've always had a passion for the economy and just kind of economics in general. I grew up without much. My dad was a truck driver. I grew up in a trailer park. My mom was a night shift postal worker when I was growing up, and so I didn't really have a lot of education around money. Didn't have any financial literacy at all. And so the ironic part behind that is in my 20s, I probably made more money than most people make in their life, and I blew it all. And because I had a really bad relationship, I didn't understand money. And, I didn't have a healthy respect for it. Let's put it that way. And so, I look back and man, I just wish I'd known then what I know now. And that's one of the big things that kind of drives me to create the information that I do. And so I got into the financial industry, kind of rose through the ranks with a Fortune 1000 company, Index Universal Life Insurance Company, and became the director of business development for them. My job is to go around the country, recruit and train agents, and to be more successful in their business. Um, I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of
yeah,
this, but like I had to get out of it.
yeah,
I just
man.
didn't believe it. I didn't believe in what I was doing anymore. It's kind of like I got to see behind the curtain, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh,
yeah,
this is not what I thought it was. And so there was that, and then ultimately I launched Life 180 in 2014. Started my YouTube channel in 2016, and since that point in time, I've done a bunch of different things. I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur, real estate investor, do different things, but my main love is cash flow investing, utilizing infinite banking for cash flow investing, and ultimately, that's what I create most content around, and I love helping people understand money on a higher level because I just believe if everybody understood what I understand, they doing things in their life a lot differently. And so, anytime I can create content or get on shows like this and meet new people and have great conversations, I'm all
yeah, man. Chris, it's crazy just hearing you speak, and like I said, it's definitely an opportunity, man. I'm thrilled to have you, and hearing you say like I made more money in my 20s than a lot of people make inside. That a lot of people are making, right? So for me,
yeah,
as you know, I'm in my 20s, and a lot of people would say,
yeah,
based on my income level, is that I make a lot more than even their parents or older people twice or three times my age or whatever. So with that being said, is I kind of get where you're at, and I'm just blessed to have individuals like yourself who have pioneered the way, um just with finance, to
awesome.
where I can make smarter decisions at an earlier time. And I think that's just the information age that we're in. Is that if you can get the
Mm,
best information possible, you can make the best decisions possible. Just like kind of how we're doing right now. This is just some really, and I would
totally.
almost say this is knowledge, because what we're doing, information you can kind of find anywhere. Knowledge is something more so. I would
Yep.
say is you take it and you can put it to immediate use. And so I know when I watch your content, that's kind of
Yeah.
what I get from it. And you're talking to a millennial,
Thank you.
you're talking
Yeah.
to a younger group of people as well. So that's another thing is like we discussed is
Yeah.
uh, the talking points is for an older generation, I would say. But Chris,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, Chris talks to he talks to the generation that actually we're looking to be heard, and we don't understand finance. We know we're trying to figure it out, and the people that need it the most is the people that's just entering the workforce, just starting their lives. Before you make a lot of mistakes,
Yeah.
you have somebody like Chris, and of course you have the channel here, and we're helping people with that. Now, Chris, another thing that that kind of interests me about you, and I just have to know is, I know a little bit about you already, right? But why Life 180?
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
hear Life 180, to me, it's like a turnaround point where where you kind
Sure.
of
Yeah.
maybe reflected on something, or you changed the way you felt. So tell me a little bit about that.
So there's actually a lot of thought has gone into the name, or went into the name when we first created it. So my wife and I actually kind of created it together. The name, I still remember being at a conference and talking to my wife when we were like, when I literally was at like a Tony Robbins event when I made the decision that I was going to leave the insurance company I was working with and kind of go on my own. And so we were like, what are we going to do? What are we, before we come up with a name for the company, like what is the intention? What is the purpose? What is our why? And what we really kind of came up with is, we want to help people turn their life around, right? So like the 180 kind of concept of like, if we look at the world, 95% of the people in this world are not getting the results that they want with their life in general. I mean, you could almost say like that's the case with marriage, that's the way it is in everything, but especially with their finances, 95% of people are not getting what they want. And so if we could help them turn those results around, that would be phenomenal. And, so the life, a lot of people think and equate life because of life insurance, because we do a lot in that space, but it really has nothing to do with that at all. It's an acronym, and the life is leading into financial excellence and living intentionally for excellence. So I took these two acronyms for life, and it's like that really embodies like everything that Life 180 stands for, is helping people live intentionally to turn the results around in their life and with their money.
That was powerful. So if, as deep as I thought it might have been, it was actually deeper than that. So, yeah, Chris, that's crazy, man. And like I said, I love it. I love everything that you have going on. And of course, I want to unpack that and unravel it. So, I kind of want to start out, and like we were saying, we have to have this conversation, but we have to have it at the viewpoint and kind of meet people where they're at. So if you're someone just joining this channel, if you're someone that doesn't know a lot about kind of the subjects that we're talking about and what's going on, we're going to break that down for you in a very simple way. And so I guess we'll start with
Mhm.
the recession that everybody's hearing about, and kind of, what is your
Sure.
definition? I know my definition. I'm sure we have a. It seems like we're kind of from that Austrian economic background. We both have that
Yeah.
that in common. And so, with that being said, is I
Sure.
know we might have a similar definition for that, but what give us your definition of a recession and kind of what's going on with that.
So I don't know that I have a technical definition, honestly. Like, I guess what I look at recession in the way that we're dealing with it. The government likes to say we're not in a recession right now. I think that's very politically driven. I just look at a recession when you go around and you poll the average American and you ask them, is your life getting better or worse? Do you have more or less opportunity? And I think right now, if you were to go around and poll most people, they would say that they're a little concerned. Consumer sentiment is going down. I don't care about all the metrics and all the tools and the measurement sticks that they're utilizing right now. The problem is that a lot of those metrics that they use to like kind of qualify or quantify a recession are very much lagging in like what we're actually experiencing at the moment, right? And so um, I'm a big believer that 6 to 12 months from now, they're going to tell us we're in a recession. Like we're technically in a recession, and by the time they tell us we're technically in a recession, we may be on our way out of it. And so we got to think things through a little bit differently. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things because there's all these lagging indicators. Um, that really have nothing to do with today. And I think if you were to go around and talk to people, because of inflation going up faster than wage growth, and that divide, the lack of savings in this country and the lack of financial foundations that people have or don't have, I should say, is creating a level of financial uncertainty and stress, which reduces consumer sentiment. Confidence, consumer confidence is going down, and that creates a lot of uncertainty. And anytime there's uncertainty to that level, people just kind of like go into their shell,
Yeah.
right? They turtle up and they don't spend, and and then it becomes this cycle of not spending, which leads to a
Yeah,
recession.
so the velocity of money slows down. And so, that's the thing about
Yeah,
it. Inflation in itself is nothing more than them pumping but not just the markets. I tell people this all the time. Uh, there's a reason why you have
yeah,
that saying, don't fight the Fed. It's the Fed doesn't
yeah,
just
true.
pump one market. The Fed pumps every single asset class, and I think a lot of people don't understand just how much the game is so rigged in a way, and how controlled it is. Once you understand that, it'll make you a much savvier investor. You'll learn to enjoy boring conversations like this, for sure, because you become a controversial. I mean, some people would say a traitor, but you become like the the opposite of what everybody else thinks, and you'll notice that is
Yeah.
just and you'll have a lot of pushback for that. But I remember I was telling people, kind of how you were saying, like even with inflation and the wage growth, I remember I got a lot of flack for
Hmm.
saying that raising the minimum wage is not the answer to what's happening. Now, is it something
Yeah.
that has to be done? Yes. It's something that has to be done based upon the fact that you're now in a system that is inflating itself and it's blowing up like an air balloon, right? So it's going higher and higher and higher. And
Hmm.
so we have to, everything has to kind of, once you start pulling the levers, and this is what the government's doing. The government is they're playing the hand of the free market. So instead of letting buyers and
Yeah.
sellers or everyday people decide what that looks like in terms of wages and prices and all these other things, once you control one thing about
Yeah.
the economy, you have to start pulling other levers that even yourself you might have thought you weren't going to do, but because it's a ripple
Yeah.
effect. And so a slippery slope, and that's something that we're seeing now. And I'm with you. I think that a recession is a survey. A recession is, how do you feel? Well, a lot of people, if I'm someone that is getting richer in recession, like you look at how many people got richer during the pandemic, right? So when
Yeah.
you see that,
Yeah.
is do I feel the same way about a recession that you do? So we might, and
Yeah.
if you lost your job, you don't feel
Well,
the same way as me.
you can either look at a recession as find the opportunity in it if you're
Yeah,
prepared for it. Like I'm eagerly awaiting it. Because like if people are not ready, well then they're gonna suffer through it.
yeah,
If you are ready, it
yeah.
creates more opportunity. So it's a positive thing in a way. I mean, you never like to see people get hurt, but like for you in your own personal financial life, it is what it is. But like just to kind of go on what you were talking about before, I always kind of like on the minimum wage comment and stuff. It's looking at think about it from a health perspective. I mean, money and health, there's so many overlaps when you look at it, right? Like most
The
people in
quality
this
of life, I
country
think. Is,
are
yeah,
they're
yeah,
happy to go like take a pill, right? Just to solve
yeah,
all their
yeah.
problems, right? When realistically speaking, to get healthy, it's exercise a little more, get off your butt, watch less TV, eat healthier, drink more water.
So I
That's the
don't go
solution.
straight
But
to the
most people don't
pharmacy.
want to do what it takes to be healthy.
Yeah, don't don't go
Yeah,
straight to the
exactly.
pharmacy. I
And
got you.
so increasing the minimum wage is like, yeah, that's like, hey, you got a pill for this. It's not solving the core problem, right? Of the systemic issues in the financial system. And so until you start, if you're gonna in the financial world, if you're gonna just go and try to take that proverbial pill and deal with that in a way, you're never going to be able to operate in a way that's going to give you more control of the results in your life when it comes to
Man,
your money.
Chris is crazy. I love the way you said it, man. You put like a beautiful euphemism on all the hard stuff that the hard pills to swallow, for people. And the thing about it is, and we can say this about a lot of things, even social programs, government
Yeah.
social programs. A
Oh,
lot of the times when you have good
yeah.
intent, And I think that's something that people don't understand, is that they think that the intent, as long as the intent is good, the outcome is good. And that's not necessarily the case. So by subsidizing people, understand that uh, the act of subsidizing someone is to keep them in the position that they're in. So you cannot upgrade your conditions.
Yeah.
If I find out that you, for example, if you get a government check and I find out that you now make more money, so you're trying to live a better life, you have to get less of that
Yeah.
check. So a lot of people will say, well, that's a good thing. People are going to make more money, and you're going to see them get off of that assistance because they don't need that anymore. Now let's be more realistic.
Hmm.
What are you really doing? You're giving candy to a child that has a bunch of cavities. And that's what's happening. So you're kind of
Yeah.
feeding that habit. And the majority of people, honestly, if you're watching this, you're probably different. But the majority of people, what are you going to do?
Hmm.
You're going to take that subdidity, and you're going to use that as a way to kind of milk the system in a way. People, you're incentivizing people not to do better. You're incentivizing people to stay where they're at, or potentially even do worse. um and so that's the danger behind that, and a lot of people can't take that hard pill, like I said. But like, the way Chris put it was beautiful. Now, Chris, I know we could go like forever with that, but I do want to jump. I want to
Yeah.
jump
Good.
on and talk about from that is, so we'll go ahead and dive into it now. And I don't want to tell your story for you, but
Hmm.
you already got into it, and you were talking about how you were index universal life is what you were working with. IUL is for the people at home. You
Oh
guys
boy.
love talking about these IULs, so
Yeah.
I kind of want to introduce the IUL by myself talking about how I feel about it. So I think
Okay.
that,
Go for it.
and I know you're like, you have this challenge out and everything, and I think that with the
Yeah.
IUL, people need to understand what is something for. All right. So if you want something
Mhm.
to do banking, if you want cash flow and you want a consistency and you want to be able to control that cash flow and the how and whens of how you pay that back, and taking loans from a banking system, you don't use an IUL. And
Mhm.
so that's my only flack with it. That's really
Mhm.
my issue with it, is that IULs are being marketed as something that they're not. So, for an example, if you bought a stock
Mhm.
and that stock was going down, by liquidating that
Yeah. Of
position, you're going to take a loss, right? Okay.
course.
So, an IUL to me is you have the chance to get liquidated almost, because and of course,
Mhm.
inside of insurance terms, that means a lapse. So what's happening is that if you take out of that policy and you're taking loans of cash value, and let's say over time, with the
Mhm.
fees and the rising costs, as well as even like a market downturn, what we're seeing right now, we don't make the market
Yeah.
do what it does. We just tell people
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
is. So with the market doing what it does right now, if I'm somebody that's taking, let's say I took all my cash value available, and there's fees, of course, associated, and the market's in a downturn, I could be in a sticky situation, right?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, I could not agree with you more. I mean, I think IULs are the most misrepresented financial product in the
Yeah.
entire industry. I mean, you made mention of the fact that you think it bothers you that they're sold as banking policies when you can't use them
Yeah.
for banking at all. So I guess I want to speak to that real quick,
Yeah, please,
right?
please, please.
So when you talk about banking, a lot of people think infinite banking, or and we get a banking
Yeah,
policy,
yeah.
right?
They think
Because of
it's, you
infinite
call up,
banking,
I want a banking
concept,
policy.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
people do, right? And so a lot of times IULs are misrepresented as being able to be a banking policy, but at the end of the day, we need to take a step back and we need to say, okay, what is infinite banking, or what some people call it privatized banking, or becoming your own bank, or bank on yourself. Like there's all these terms around, like kind of like conceptually, Nelson Nash created this concept, but it's here's the deal: it's not about the policy; it's about the philosophy, right? And when you start thinking about it from the perspective of it's about the philosophy and the attributes, then you start to realize the attributes required to execute on a philosophy only exist in one product in the world, and that is a properly designed whole life insurance policy. The reason you can't use IULs because, and the reason I think it is categorically misrepresented is because most people look at infinite banking and they go, well, it's just about getting life insurance with cash value and creating some sort of access to be able to borrow against that policy and create positive arbitrage. And that's infinite banking. And nothing could be further from the truth. The arbitrage is just one little component of an overall philosophy, but really what the philosophy is about control and efficiency. That's the way I look at it. If I want to break it down into simple terms, it's about control and efficiency. And the reason we can't use index universal life banking is because as soon as I sign on the dotted line, all of the control of the variables that matter most in an index universal life policy are in the hands of the insurance company. When I sign on the dotted line for a whole life policy, all of the control contractually, legally, is in my hands, not the
Yeah,
insurance
man.
company. And that is the fundamental difference
Yeah, I
between the
think,
two.
and I agree with you on that. And so I think that a lot of people, and like I said, man, you'll get a lot of flack for the truth nowadays. We're moving into a
Yeah,
time now. Yeah,
and I do.
we're in a time now where people. So there's two ways to look at this. You're going to get a lot of pushback. If you're somebody out there and you agree with some of the things you're hearing right now, and just so to give like a filler is that we're talking about whole life insurance designed for banking, and the design of that
Hmm.
policy is the infinite banking concept itself. So I always break it down to people like that. So you got a whole life policy that is just a bread. And so what people do is they think they can call the insurance company and just get a banking policy. They don't have anything such as an infinite banking policy. There's no such thing. So what you're thinking is that you'll call an
Hmm.
agent, and it might not even be that this agent is trying to represent it in that way, but it's the fact that the knowledge that that
Yeah.
person has learned, and you yourself, you call this agent, you're telling them the knowledge that you've learned, and you might even be enlightening them. But when they hear this, they're thinking, okay, I can only think of a product that does something like what this person is saying. And that's how you end up with an IUL. You
Totally.
end up with some bread. So the problem is this: an IUL would just be bread. And let's say a whole life policy is bread and peanut butter. But who wants just that? They want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's what we're all familiar with. You want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? So when you go to the store, you don't get a
Hmm.
ready-made peanut butter and jelly sandwich, do you? You go get the bread, you get the peanut butter, you get the jelly, and you put it all together. What we do, so we're the
Hmm.
banking bros. We're the banking bros here at the Money Multiplier. And of course, Chris here, Life 180, he does the same thing we do. We're infinite banking practitioners. What we're doing is we're able to design these policies for people. And so we take it and we put that together. So the bread, the peanut butter, the jelly, we have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That concept, somebody put that together and said, this tastes good. This is now a meal. That's a concept. And so
Yep.
that's what infinite banking
Yep.
is. And I think a lot of people miss that with infinite banking. Past that is just
Yep.
the part of just kind of summing up the whole IUL thing, is the fact that
Yeah.
what you said is the controls, and more importantly is I think
That's
people
everything.
forget exactly what it is. And that's my issue, is that the misrepresentation of what is being uh what is being sold as. So an IUL is not meant for banking. We're not.
An IUL is not meant for banking. No, but
If
an
you want to say
IUL is also
retirement, if you want
outside.
to say something like that,
Yeah.
maybe just
No,
not
no,
just
not even,
not
man. Like,
banking.
here's
Don't
what
say
else.
banking. That's my issue. Just don't
Yeah,
say banking.
but okay, so I'm going to take it to the next level, though. An IUL is the most misrepresented product across the board. It's never going to do what it's sold as. It's not going to perform well for retirement for you. It's never. It's gonna. You're going to have. You're going to have problems with an IUL one way or the other. Fundamentally speaking, when you start to dig down, and this is why I've done a playlist on YouTube that's got 64 videos in it, because like the problem is people go out, agents go out, and they don't know what they're selling. They
No,
don't even
that's another
understand
thing,
the
guys. The
product.
agents don't. you you guys need to get. It's time for self education. This is the information age. We got the most information. Nobody's getting it.
Yeah,
You need to learn for
so
yourself.
true.
The bankers don't know what they're talking about. The
Yeah.
financial planners don't know what they're talking about. The agents don't know what they're talking about. the teachers don't know what they're talking about.
True.
Robert Kiyosaki came out with his book Fake, talking about fake teachers, fake everything. And
Mhm.
that's the thing is
Totally.
we have fake
Totally.
politicians. We actually have politicians that do not know what their role is. They just
Yep.
kind of say something
Exactly.
like
And
it's crazy, man. Dude, I didn't mean to cut you off, but man, like it's crazy. Just like
oh, you're
we're
good,
just
man.
right
You're
here,
good.
and like what you're saying. I think that what if you want to call it something, and that what I don't like about it is the fabrics of an IUL reminds me so much of an investment. Like that's it's so
Yeah. Well,
non-guaranteed. It just reminds me of an investment. And if I'm thinking about investing, I'm not going to hand the controls of my investment over to the insurance company. I'm going to invest for myself. I'd rather go play the options game myself or something before I put my money inside of an IUL and let them, flip the patty, so to speak. I want to have control over that.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when you understand how the internal workings of how you kind of quote unquote participate in the
Yeah.
indexes in the market through an IUL, and you realize like all the moving parts, and I've got literally, I don't know, probably 10 hours of training just on these concepts alone
Literally
online.
the
Like it,
the regional director, or what you were
I was
saying?
no, I was the director
No,
of
the director,
the
the
national
national
director of
director.
this.
Okay, I'm sorry, the national director,
Yeah,
like of
yeah.
Index Universal Life. That's so it's not like, and that's the thing. I know people at first hand they might not know that about you from hearing like just one TikTok or
Mhm.
something like that. But dude, it's like
Sure.
this
Yeah.
guy is from like. Do we go any higher than that? Like this
No,
guy
not
is
really. Not
literally
in that
like
space.
he's the
Like,
guy. That's like if Ronald McDonald was like, I'm not eating McDonald's anymore. You see what I'm saying? If Ronald McDonald was like, no more McDonald's,
it's
everybody should stop eating McDonald's. That should scare you to go to McDonald's. That the guy, you see what I'm
it's
saying? Like, no, that's yeah, it's crazy, man. So
And I find it funny all these IUL people on TikTok and stuff that love it, and they wanna come at me, and I just find it laughable when they start attacking me with their uneducated
yeah,
perspective,
that's
you
I
know,
think
and
the
it's just
saddest
like,
part to me is that the industry itself is not educated. That's the saddest part to me.
sure,
I think that
mhm,
insurance in itself is an industry that's behind. And so
totally,
but it's not any better when you have people that don't even understand the concept is either of what they're saying either. So
yeah,
that's a lot different. So
that's true,
past that is I want to get a little bit more
yep,
into of course Life 180, what you do. I'm going to introduce you a little bit more
sure,
into what I do, because we this is our first time actually getting a chance to talk, like seriously talk. I know
yeah,
we saw each other at the
yeah,
symposium, but it's a lot going on. It's not like a one-on-one really. But yeah, man. So
totally,
give me like a deeper dive into Life 180. If I'm somebody that's looking to get started, uh, in terms
yeah,
of learning a little bit more, like I said, a lot of your content preaches to people around my age group. A lot of people watching this right now is going to be around
yep,
my age group and maybe even a little older. So,
well,
uh, where do I go with that? What does Life 180 mean to me as a person that I'm just now figuring out who Chris Kirkpatrick is?
yeah. Well, so here's what I'd say is, like, I guess before I go into, like, the Life 180 stuff, I think it's important to understand, like, when we talk about Life 180, and I talk about, like, the name, the living intentionally for excellence and leading into
Yeah,
financial excellence, like in the 180 life around, it really just comes down to the fact that the thing that I like to preach is that it's about financial efficiency and financial structure that will help increase your financial efficiency more than it is going in trying to get better rates of return. The problem that the country is facing right now is that we're living in a failed financial experiment. And what I mean by that is, I was born in 1980. Okay. And so when you look around right now, we have the most prosperous country that the world has ever seen in the history of of this world. We are literally the most prosperous country that with the highest quality of life that the world has ever known. Yet only 5 out of 100 people are able to hit retirement and maintain their standard of living. And to me, that's a travesty. Now, when we look at that and I go, okay, that's a really disgusting number. And then I look at like what's going on and what are people looking at as traditional financial vehicles. Like, a lot of people go, well, what are we taught? We're taught to go to school, get a job, invest in our 401k, take 10% of our income, invest it for our future, and go from there. But the problem is, you do that, you put your money in a 401k, or people go, hey, I'm going to put my money in a 401k and I'm going to put it in a Roth. And those are the two most common vehicles. Fair
yeah, I
enough?
know. The whole mutual fund thing, got the
Yeah,
ETFs and
yeah.
all
And
that
those are,
stuff.
yeah, But a lot of that goes through these
Yeah,
vehicles of
exactly. I mean, it's
401ks,
the same.
IRAs,
It's the same.
IRAs.
I think people think. I think that people don't understand that. Okay, it's let's say if we all go to the bathroom. You know, they got different stalls, but it all goes to the same place.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So I think
Sure,
that's kind
totally.
of I think that's what people are missing the most is that I don't care if it's 401k, I don't care if it's IRA, I don't care if it's Roth account. You can change the name. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's still a duck, and the
Yeah,
money's going to the same places. That's the issue. That's the biggest issue.
sure. Well, what does it come down to? It comes down to control. What have we been talking about? What is the reason you want to do infinite banking? It's because you want to control your money. You want to control your future. And when you put your money in a qualified account like a 401k or an IRA, you're giving up control of that money and you're giving it to the government, which in my opinion is the worst money manager in the history of the
Yeah,
world,
well,
right?
I
We're
was about to say
31 trillion
we're
dollars.
going, we're shooting for. I think we'll hit 40 before the end of this year, because the midterms just
Yeah.
went through, and I think they're going to pass a nice little bill to finish the year off.
That's
Yeah,
bold.
I see. Oh yeah,
40, huh? That's
well,
huge.
not at 40, but I think the litigation will be there for 40.
Yeah.
The litigation will be there for 40 trillion.
Okay, fair
Yeah,
enough. Fair enough. And so the reason I call it the failed financial experiment is because the whole concept of 401ks and IRAs and Roth IRAs, most people don't realize this. 401ks were not implemented until the early
yeah,
80s. Roth IRAs, Roth IRAs were not created until 1997, you know? And so a lot of people are leveraging these and looking at them and going, "Oh, these are just the traditional, the best places to invest for our future." But then you look at the results that everybody who's getting with those as they get through. We have the first generation that's utilized these accounts for their full entire working career, and it's an abysmal result. Yet people just look at it like, "Oh, this is just the way to do it." It's like,
yeah.
bro, listen, man, you got to
It kind of reminds me of a very very fun but dangerous ride that you got to know when to get off. Um, and but past that is
totally.
Steve Jobs said this. He said the most powerful person in history is a storyteller because
Mm,
they
amen.
will set the and I don't want to misquote them, but to summarize it is that they will set the ideas in the mind frame for generations to come. The story of history as
Yep.
we know it is the problem, and I think that if you really want to know the history of the world, you have to know the history of money. And so, Chris, you were
Hmm.
saying this failed financial experiment. It's not a new experiment though. We've seen it before. We've seen it in Rome. We've seen it. We've seen the
Oh,
debasement
totally.
of currencies, and more importantly, it's just I think kind of coming into the end of what we're talking about. And before I go into that, is so Chris, Life 180, real quick. Oh yeah, let me get it.
Oh
I
yeah.
was about to say I don't leave it.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, no, you're good. You're good. No, so we, Life 180, we has kind of gone through a lot of different iterations. But as it stands now, we are a full independent marketing organization at this point in time. I obviously run my YouTube channel, TikTok channel, Instagram, all that stuff, and
So I can hit you up
but we've
for
got
some
over 100
marketing. If
agents.
I need some marketing, I can hit you up for marketing services.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We do all. Yeah, I own personally. I have Life 180 Media, Life 180 Insurance Agency, Life 180 Consulting. I have all these different companies that help. My passion is helping entrepreneurs, life insurance agents, and real estate agents elevate their businesses online. And so I've got a full marketing agency, media company that helps with video production, helps with sales funnel development, lead generation, all that stuff. I've got my insurance agency, which is independent marketing organization that helps life insurance agents build their businesses, plug into our training and all that stuff. We're growing. We're over 100 agents deep at this point in time, and so we're growing like a weed. We just started the insurance agency in January of 2022, and we're already over 100 agents, and so it's growing really well. But I always kind of tell people the market's coming to us because financial security is becoming a sexy conversation again, because people are, faced with all this uncertainty. And so they want, if we could bring certainty into an uncertain world, there's a lot of power in that, whereas the last decade, nobody really cared. Everybody had their head in the sand. And one of my favorite quotes in the world is just because the ostrich buries his head in the sand doesn't mean the lion's dinner plans have changed,
Yeah.
you know? And this is happening, whether you like it or not, you got to deal with it. It's your life.
It's crazy, man, that you end with kind of like that analogy, and kind of just to piggyback off of that is, um, I forget who says it, but when we trade out, safety for or free, I think it's freedom for security. Yeah,
Security.
we lose both. Yeah.
You get
So
none.
the issue that we're having is,
Yep.
and you see it in the past couple of years, especially, is that people think that we will either turn our heads and the world will get better, or we will comply our way into a better world. That's not going to happen. So
Yep.
you can continue to kick that can down the road. It's either you'll deal with it, the next generation will deal with it. But I can tell you that power is a vacuum, and I think that it's not that we're tyrannical or anything like that. I think that what it is that we
Yep.
notice something. A lot of people are also noticing that the system kind of needs to change. It needs to be updated. It needs to be fixed, or even maybe tore down and kind of rebuilt. As bad as that might sound, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of on
Yeah.
the end. I'm more of an advocate for the last of what I just said. I do believe in a total breakdown and rebuild. Yeah, it might sound very very dangerous or whatever, but that's I'm more of an advocate for that. And it doesn't have to be violent. I think a lot of people see that, they
Yeah.
hear that, and it's like,
No,
oh, it
no,
has to
no.
be. No, it doesn't have to be war. It doesn't. What it has to be is we need to everybody that is we need to redefine what public service is, and we need to go from. I'm all for democracy, but the issue with democracy
Mm,
sometimes is it slows things down. So we need to get stuff done as well. So there's things that we're still working on for 20 and 30 years because one party votes this way and then they get somebody else in power that votes it different. So you see Biden literally spent the first year just undoing and unraveling everything that Trump did. So what is
yeah.
that? That's now 6 years wasted almost. But the
Yeah.
people are not anymore helped by that. I think it just has to be private markets and so on and so forth. But I don't want to go off into a tangent. More so, it's bringing it back into it. It's just that. So Chris was telling you guys how he has a marketing agency. He does a lot of things. Life 180 is everything from what we just learned. Um,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
my
dude.
world.
Yeah,
It's my
dude. And I
life. It's
love
my
it.
brand.
And I would say that if I'm somebody that's looking for marketing, and including myself, I need to work with Chris. I need to talk to him and figure out, yeah, dude, I need to know, like, how can I drive traffic and get more people to what I do. So I'll be talking to you off camera more as well. But past that is, if you're
Okay.
watching this now, of course, the breakdown of what we're talking about, better investments. What does that surround is trading, investing, and banking. So, Chris, I know, like I said, we didn't get to have this conversation before. So, Better Investments is my company that I started. So, you have Better
Yeah.
Investments and Better Investments
Love
Academy.
it.
So, the academy is more so educating people on financial
Love it.
education, and then we have Better Investments, which is more so dealing with the financial side of things when you get into financial services and not advisory,
Mhm.
but financial education, right? Educating people on the better options that they have. So better investments that they can take. So that's what we're into, man. And so I focus on trading, investing, and
Love
banking
it.
because I come from, first and foremost, a day trader background. So I caught the whole forex
Okay.
wave before it was a wave. Before people were trying to turn it into
Nice.
multi-level marketing, it was just forex. Yeah, so
Ah,
I
nice.
caught that.
All right.
Serial investor, so I like a lot of liquid assets. I remember Bitcoin at
Yep.
below $3,000. Um, yeah,
Nice.
I
Yep.
remember some crazy stuff. Ethereum at $50.
Yep.
So whether it's Tesla stock, Amazon, whether it's stocks, cryptos, different things like that. Just
Yep.
trading, investing, and banking. And so the banking came along later. I wish it came sooner.
Yep.
I wish it came
Sure. Yeah,
sooner.
yeah, of course.
But the thing about it is, the blessing of it is that I had capital to then deploy into my system and start to understand the difference between banking and investing. And so I think if people have what I do is, and a part of the academy is we have to break the paradigm of people understanding the difference between trading and investing. So they treat things that they should
Yep.
trade like an investment, but then they treat investments like trades because the good things always take
Mhm.
longer, right? So they get in there and
Yep.
they get chopped up because they can't handle the psychology behind, okay, look, this is actually something of value. And because it has real fundamentals behind it, it moves at a slower pace, or it moves different at a different rate of change than something
Mhm.
that is just like a pump and dump, or something quick to, quick and flashy, but it's not going to last. It's not going to be here. So I think but then you move on into the difference between investing and banking. And that is an even harder bridge to kind of connect, because you have people that are financially
Totally.
educated that will argue you up and down because they don't even hear what they're saying. They keep saying
Well,
investing, but they don't hear the difference of what we're saying. It's banking, it's not investing. It's not an investment.
so your name, Better Investments, right? Like, so the way I look at it is the best investment you're ever going to make is
Exactly.
in yourself,
Exactly.
right? Period. There's nothing else out there. And so one of the things, so I don't know if you know this, but I wrote my book, Cash Flow Hacking. I've got Cash Flow Hacking 2.0 is coming out on hopefully January 2nd. I've got to push to
Yeah,
get it to my
I'll have
publisher this
we'll
coming
have
week.
both of those, and the
So,
next time we have you on, I'll have both of those books
yeah.
present.
So as I've been going through this though, like this is important to think. Like, so I've been doing a lot of research, and your title of your company, the Better Investment, and the idea of like, we are the best investment that we're ever going to make is
Exactly.
in ourselves. And I would argue that and this is why I love infinite banking and utilizing. I'm not even going to call it infinite banking for this. When you utilize a properly designed whole life insurance policy to be the cornerstone foundational asset of your financial life, and you use that to build everything else upon, it forces you to become more in life, right? Like, so think about it this way: you are where you are in life right now. Every single person, me, you, everybody listening to this, you are where you are in life because of who you are. Is that a fair
Yeah,
enough
man.
statement?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you own that?
I'm about to. I'm
Right.
gonna bring it right back to you as soon as I get a chance. Go ahead. I wanna. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we are all where we are because of who we are. And if you want more, you better have a financial system that helps you grow and become more. And the way so I just created this thing in my book. It's called the 4 F's: faith, family, fitness, and
I
finances.
saw you
Okay.
talking about that on a
Fitness is just
podcast
health,
recently. I just saw you talking about, yeah.
right? Like, yeah, so it's all about like you can't outsource your success and your faith. You got to put the time in the Bible. You got to do your praying. You got to get right with God. You can't outsource your success as a husband, as a father. You can't outsource your health and your fitness and your diet. Nobody else is going to do your push-ups and eat healthy for you. And yet somehow everybody's been duped into believing that we can outsource our success and just give our money to some person that is going to do what they need to do for us, when the reality is our money has a direct impact on all these other things. Financial stress is the number one cause of stress in the world, and stress is one of the greatest causes of health issues in the world. Financial stress is the number one cause of divorce in this country, and we got over 50% divorce rate. So if we can just help people get right with their money, and if you can like take accountability to the level where you realize like, hey, I am where I am because of who I am, and I better grow if I want to get anywhere significant in life, and align and realize that you getting right with your money is the like a foundational, it's a cornerstone, one of the 4 cornerstone pillars that you need to get right with, that you cannot outsource and you need to be diligent and dedicate yourself to. If you get that right, your whole life is going to change. That will have ripple effects that make your marriage better, make you a better husband, make you better in the way that you show up for your community and tithe with your church and give to organizations, and show up in your health, and you can eat healthier, you can afford more stuff. Like, it's life is just better. And like I think a lot of people don't realize the role of growing with your personal finances can have in your life from a full spectrum view. It's
Yeah,
not just
man.
about
Yeah,
the
and
dollars and
so
cents.
I like how you brought it back to it. Is because I think a lot of people hear is they always hear dollar signs, they always hear money, and everybody has to take it to where, like, even when we're
Yeah.
talking about wages, everybody has to take it to where, well, I only make this much, or this is what my circumstance is. Here's the thing: Chris
Yeah.
was making more than people twice and three times his age inside of his 20s because of Chris. It's crazy. I
Hmm.
know Jim Brown. Jim Brown is one of my favorite speakers of all
Yeah.
time, and he says, and he was talking to his mentor, Dr. Scholes, and he said, "Well, this is all they pay." And he asked him, "Well," he said, "Don't other people there make more money than that?" He's like, "Well, then yeah, they pay. Okay, then they pay more than that. They pay more than that." And so the thing is that if we can increase our value. And so I think people think that
Yep.
money is something that you go and you find. No, money is who you are. And so you will naturally, you can't be an NBA player on a high school basketball team and continue to outdo high schoolers and not go to the NBA. You can't. You're going to stand out naturally
Well,
when you're better at something, or you increase your value and whatever it is. that's going to
Hmm.
drive, and that's what we call it. It's called economic value. And so I think that's the biggest
Yep.
poison to society right now is the something for nothing attitude. We believe I'm
Totally.
Another thing I get hacked for is I don't believe in reparations. That is something huge. But and so not to go off on into a tangent, like I said, but guys, it's just understanding
Okay.
this is that you have to understand that everything has the ripple effect. There's something for nothing.
Yeah.
Now, in the event somebody were to come into my home and take something from me, and I want that back from them, and let's say they were even willing to consider to give that back to me, well, time has passed. It's either I don't have the same, it doesn't have the same value to it as before, hence the US dollar that people are asking for. You got to understand, guys, you're asking for reparations inside of debt. Currency is debt, dollars are
Hmm.
debt. You're asking for them to give you the same
Hmm.
system of control that already has you controlled. So, if I give a prisoner
Yep.
more handcuffs, do they become more free? It's not the we have to understand that these things sound really, really good. It sounds great, right? Reparations, these different things like that. For one, like I said, I I wasn't necessarily a slave, or even other groups and ethnicities. They might not have experienced what they experienced, but if we repair everyone as a whole, do we
Yep.
not still pay the cost? And so that's the thing is that if I give reparations to a certain group of people for whatever that case is, well, if I do that, everybody pays more in taxes. Everybody's it's not it's there is no such thing as a free lunch, as my first economic teacher would say. There's no such thing as a free lunch. She loves saying that. Yeah, man,
I
it's
love that
because that's
saying.
the thing is like student loan forgiveness. It sounds very, very great. It's a great thing. Don't get me wrong. Student loan forgiveness is a great thing.
No, it's not. I didn't get forgiveness when I
Exactly.
had to pay
See,
my loans off.
I pay my loan. See, here's the thing is that anytime you try to make something better or fair, you always have to disadvantage somebody else. You're always going to disenfranchise someone else. So now someone who never even had the opportunity to go to college for whatever that reason is, they're paying for the student loan of someone that did go to college and finish their degree. And so, you know, it's not about the morality of it. What it more so comes down to is, are you willing? My dad told me this. He said life is like a credit card. You either pay for it now or you pay for it more later in the end. And I think
Hmm.
that's what it is. I think that
Hmm.
the society right now, we're swiping our credit cards, and we're doing it for everything though. We're not just doing it for one thing, we're doing it for everything.
Oh
We're
yeah.
doing it for student loans, we're doing it for big corporations. Even I'm not going to leave out the big guys. I know that's the
Right.
favorite thing. Well, so and so does it. Yeah, well, guess what? That's even worse. The fact that GM and Ford and all these other big guys do it, that's just the same thing that you're doing, but on a much larger scale. But when it all boils down and blows up, I think that the everyday individual will
Yep.
be way more impacted than the big guys. And so that's the thing about it is we have to get educated on what's going on so we can start to source our issues. And that's what I like about talking with you, Chris. I don't want to hold you on too much longer, man. I know we've been going is great,
No,
but
you're good.
is the reason why I want to talk with you is because I think that what we both have an understanding is that we understand the source. Like I see you talk about the Fed a lot, and like
Oh yeah.
we've gone from talking about like investing, banking, we've talked about it all, man. But going into it, like I think to wrap it up is I want to talk about exactly that. It's just that, like you said, better investments. What is that? And I tell people that all the time. If somebody asks me what's the best investment is yourself. I'll tell anybody that. The best investment is yourself because how do why I am where I'm at, why Chris is where he's at, and other people have made it where they're at is because they learned more, they became more, they were willing to do
Hmm.
what other people were not willing to do. You will not
Yep.
make it doing what everybody does, and it's simple as that.
Totally. Well, so to that point, seeing how you're in your 20s and you probably have a lot more young people that watch you than watch me, because I'm getting old and I have a gray beard already, it seems. And so here's what I'll say. If this is one thing that I could have known in my 20s that I wish I had known, that I would implore everybody to think, it's be willing to go slow to go
Ooh.
fast. And the biggest lie that's told in personal finance is the younger you are, the more risk you can take. And while that may be true because you have more time to make up for screw ups, the younger you are, the less risk you have to take. The younger you are, if you understand the power of compound interest, you understand the two things that you can't, or the number one thing you can't have happen is have losses. And only in the financial industry have we been taught that, but we're the
It's
only way to get
risk.
where we want to go is
Risk.
to
Yeah,
take more
risk.
risk. And if you
Losses are a
understand
good thing. You need to take losses. Yeah.
yeah, risk, you increase risk, you increase your chance of loss. So in what world does it make sense that I'm going to say, hey, we're going to increase your chances of getting where you want to go by increasing your
Yeah,
chance of losing?
Chris,
Like that makes no
I
sense.
think that
Like
not to cut you, man. I think the issue is that people don't understand how that works. So, guys, just a quick gem from your guy here, Robert Lee, CEO and founder of Better Investments and Better Investment Academy. You need buyers and sellers inside of a market. So, in order for and crypto is funny because you got like crypto communities, and it's like, guys, you realize that you're all
yeah,
selling on each other, or you guys as a conglomerate are selling on the public of people that are not in part of your group or whatever. That's all it is. I think
yeah,
that's what people are forgetting, is that it's buyers and sellers. You don't get where you're going by doing what everybody else is
right,
doing. And another thing as well is that everybody's not going to win. And so that's what we're doing. We're taking our money and we're putting it into the casino. We're putting it into the game of chance, where we know there has to be a loser. And instead of saying, okay, I will take gradual, sustained growth, guaranteed gradual, sustained growth. We much rather gamble and take the quicker route. And sometimes it pays out, sometimes it doesn't. But another way is guaranteed, and so that way has paved out and worked out pretty good. But man, Chris, I don't want to hold you up too
yeah,
much
man.
longer, man. I'm going to go ahead and kind of wrap this up, guys. I
You're good.
appreciate you for tuning
All
in
right,
and
brother.
checking this out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Chris, where can we find you?
So I'm on Instagram and TikTok. I am at
Hmm.
real Chris Kirkpatrick, and on YouTube it's Life
Got it.
180.
Got
Really
it. Got it.
simple.
Got it. So yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Of course, you can always find us at Better Investments and Better Investment Academy. Also, too, my guys, the Banking Bros. Make sure you follow them on all platforms at the Banking Bros on all platforms. They're doing great things, and I would
All right.
not be as knowledgeable and to have this conversation with Chris right now if it wasn't for him. So I appreciate everything, Chris, that you did today and the knowledge that you brought and gave. And I
Thanks,
look
man.
forward to having like a part two, man. We got to unravel now that we gave him like an
Yeah,
introduction. We
man.
can we can we can dive
Anytime, you
into
just
it.
let me know. I love it. Anytime. Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. Anytime you
All
want,
right,
we'll
man.
do
You
it
have a good
again.
rest of your day, Chris. And you too, guys.
You too. See you, man.